Hello YouTube, it's Balthazar3457, and I want to start us off by saying I hope everybody had a great Christmas and a great New Year's. And I haven't uploaded anything in the past couple of weeks, and that's mainly because I've been busy with Christmas and New Year's stuff. So I figured we'd start off 2011 with, well, me making a guide for how to make money with inscription in World of Warcraft without having an herbalist to supply it. This guide's mainly meant for people who want to make money with inscription but either don't have access to an herbalist or they want to free up their herbalism for some other profession or, you know, anything like that. Now, the first thing I want to say about this guide is that this guide is not going to be covering glyphs. We're mainly going to be talking about mysterious fortune cards and the inks and so on and so forth. And the reason we're not going to be talking about glyphs today is because glyphs, by their nature, are a highly subjective market. It varies greatly, the value of glyphs, from server to server. On one server, they're worth lots and lots of money. On the next server, they're not, because it's entirely dependent on the demand for glyphs, which is dependent on population and what the server does, and so on and so forth. So there's all these random factors that make glyphs a difficult market to give advice on, because it varies so dramatically from server to server. So mainly we're going to be talking about mysterious fortune cards and items that are related to those. Now the first thing that I should talk about is buying and resale. Now the way inscription works, if you're going to supply all the herbs yourself and don't have access to an herbalist, is you're going to be buying your herbs off of the auction house. So we need to talk about buying and resale and also about price and value. Now the first thing is buying and resale. The basic concept behind buying and resale for crafting professions in World of Warcraft is you buy the materials off of the auction house, you combine them together into a single product, and you post it back up on the auction house for a higher price than what you paid for the various materials. Inscription kind of does the opposite, because what you do is you buy whatever your choice herb is, you mill it, and you can turn it into ink, which can turn into a whole bunch of other different things, which you can then sell on the auction house. So it kind of works in the reverse, where you break something down into different items and then resell it. But this is actually a good thing. Now, let's see what the prices of the cataclysm herbs are on my server right now. Keep in mind, price is also subjective from server to server, but this will still show you a good guide as to how to figure out which herbs you should buy. Now, before we look at the price of the herbs, though, there's one critical piece of information that you need to know about herbs before you consider which ones you buy. Very frequently, people make a very serious mistake in that they look at whatever the lowest price herb on the auction house is at the moment, and they just buy whatever's the lowest in terms of stack, because that in turn turns into pigment, so on and so forth. They think that they're getting the most value for their money. This is not always the case. The cataclysm herbs are very different. When it comes to whiptail and twilight jasmine, these two herbs have a much higher chance to, when milled, create the burning embers that are required to create inferno ink. And on my server, these sell very well. And there's no reason to believe that they shouldn't sell very well on any other server. And as it turns out, the increased proc rate is about double that. Typically, if you mill one stack of whiptail or twilight jasmine, you're going to get about 2 burning embers out of them. Whereas if you mill any of the other cataclysm herbs, you're only going to get most likely 1 per stack of 20. So that's a 1 in 4 chance when you mill a stack of any cataclysm herb that is not whiptail or twilight jasmine. Now let's check the price of burning embers and inferno ink on the auction house on my server right now. Inferno ink is currently selling for 175 gold, approximately. And burning embers are currently selling for about 100 gold, approximately. This basically adds about 100 gold of value onto each stack of whiptail or twilight jasmine as opposed to the other cataclysm herbs, and this should be factored in when you consider which herbs you want to purchase, to then craft whatever it is you're going to be crafting. In this case, we're looking at mysterious fortune cards. Now let's take a look at some of the prices for cataclysm herbs on my server. Stormvine is currently selling for about 60 gold per stack on my server. However, this is an undercut, and there's not very many stacks posted at that level. There's far more posted at 75 gold, which is still lower than the current average on my server. Heart Blossom is currently going for just shy of 300 gold per stack. Cinderbloom is selling for about 90 gold per stack in terms of the undercut, and just over 100 gold per stack on average. Whiptail is currently selling for about 125 gold per stack. Twilight Jasmine is selling for 250 gold per stack. And this Char's Veil is currently selling for about 100 gold per stack at an all-time low on this server. Now the cheapest herbs in terms of price were Stormvine, for if I bought these these 6 undercut stacks, I'd get them for about 60 gold apiece. However, this may not actually be a good idea. Let's take a look at Whiptail again. Whiptail is currently selling for an average of about 125 gold per stack, which is an increase by about 65 gold in terms of price per stack. However, this stack of Whiptail also has a double chance to produce Burning Embers. Now let's double check the price of Burning Embers. Burning Embers are 100 gold apiece. And Inferno ink are about 175 gold apiece, which in turn makes the Burning Embers tied into them worth about 87 gold apiece. The thing is, both of these numbers are higher than the extra cost that it would take to purchase the Whiptail. This greatly increases the value of the Whiptail and actually means that I'm getting more value for the money that I'm spending if I purchase the stacks of Whiptail instead of the stacks of Stormvine, because I'm going to be able to resell it for more money. Now before I started recording, I already purchased 3 stacks of Whiptail for the purposes of this video. And what they milled into was they gave me 4 Burning Embers and enough pigment to make 17 blackfallow ink. And while I still got unlucky because it should have actually given me 2 extra Burning Embers, I'm still not getting a loss from it because the 4 Burning Embers that I did get from it are around the same price as the stacks of Whiptail that I purchased initially. 4 Burning Embers being about 400 gold, and 3 stacks of Whiptail adding up to 375 gold. So this covers my losses anyway, even though I got some bad luck from the random number generator. And whatever I do with the 17 blackfallow ink that I also got from it are just purely profit. I wouldn't have had this option if I went with the Stormvine. Milling is partially subjective to the random number generator. Typically what's going to happen is you're going to get between 8 to 12 pigment from a stack of herbs and a chance at the Burning Embers. And this is pretty much the same for all of the various herbs in Cataclysm. However, the Burning Embers still have a higher chance to drop from Whiptail and Twilight Jasmine. And if I went with the Stormvine, I probably wouldn't have been able to cut my losses and compensate for it in the way that I just did. Because even though I got 2 Burning Embers less than I should have, which is 200 gold in materials that I missed out on due to the random number generator being mean to me, the remainder that I got from that still completely compensated for the loss. And I'm still going to make a pretty big profit based on what I do with the 17 blackfallow ink. And I wouldn't have had this option with the Stormvine. And that's another topic that I want to get into, options. You never want to put all of your eggs in one basket. For example, if you had 17 blackfallow ink like I do now, you could make 17 mysterious fortune cards and post them all up on the auction house at the same time. I would not do this, however, because that's putting all of your eggs in one basket. And if you do that, you risk lowering the price and value of the item on the market because you're flooding the market with the given item. Another thing you could do is you could make mysterious fortune cards and adventurers. I forget what they're called. What are they called? Adventurers' journals. That's what they're called. Now, on my server, these are selling for about 35 gold a piece right now, and the only difference between what it takes to make an adventurer's journal and a mysterious fortune card is about 2 golds worth, or I think a gold and a half's worth of money from vendor-bought materials. Now let's look at the price of mysterious fortune cards on my server at the moment. Mysterious fortune cards are currently selling for just over 18 gold. And this is actually an all-time low on my server, because the average price for them is about 45 gold or so. So you never want to put all of your eggs in one basket. What I would do is I would make, let's say, 4 or 5 mysterious fortune cards, post them up on the auction house, and see if they sell. And just continue doing that, turning the ink into cards and selling those, or sell the ink depending on which one's more expensive, but never turn everything into something. Always leave the majority, or at least a remainder, left over in case whatever it is that you're selling doesn't sell well. Let's take a look at the price for blackfallow ink. Blackfallow ink is currently selling for about 15 gold right now. And this is also something that's rather low. It's normally around a price of 30 gold or so. However, this bleeds into another topic that I wanted to talk about, and that's market anomalies.